Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining tonight. And of course, it's always difficult to go after a boss with his energy, and I'm going to try and match it. First of all, I want you to think about the fact that the last few years, we've had cases involving civil rights with police abuse and Black Lives Matter. Before that, we had the Me Too movement. This is the year holding institutions responsible for sexual abuse of women. It's unbelievable what's been going on. Think of the Olympics. Think of the hearings we had this week in front of the United States Congress, Simone Biles and others talking about this. 20, 30, 40 friggin' years of these jerks molesting women during their exams. This is the case of Doe versus USC and George Tyndall. You've all heard about it. The lead lawyers, Mike Arias, John Manley, Vince Finaldi. Speaking of underrepresented classes, Mike is a Filipino-American. I don't think we've ever had a Filipino-American win Trial Lawyer of the Year. By the way, their team included Sharyl Garza, Jane Reilley, Alfredo Torrijos, and Arnold Wang. This team fought on behalf of 700 women. I'm going to repeat that. 700 women that decided that they weren't going to go into the class action and fight this case. They wanted to go on their own for two reasons. One, they wanted to fight for accountability. They wanted to fight to find out what USC knew about this jerk and when they knew it. And if they went into the class, they might not get those answers. There was a lot of pressure to join the class. The class was safer. The class would guarantee them a result of between $19,000 and $96,000. They wouldn't have to worry about the statute of limitations. And guess what these women decided to do? They decided to face unbelievable odds. The law was actually against them on the statute of limitations. Did they lay down, look at the summary judgment motions, whatever they're going to look to on that note? You know what they did? They decided to come out of the shadows and to go to friggin' Sacramento and talk to the senators and assembly people and to start getting hearings on this so that they could maybe change the law and carve out an exception for a woman who had been humiliated by this guy. Some of these women have had experiences of not wanting to have kids. They've been suicidal. I mean, I can't even imagine all the stuff that they've been through 20, 30 years later. They went through, we got our legislative team involved. Nancy Peverini, Jackie Cerna, they met with them. They had meetings to prepare them to speak, and they had to speak. And you can imagine what it's like to have to get out and speak about this stuff in public to committee meetings and to the legislature, to the press. They came out of the shadows. They had to reveal this to their husbands, to their kids, to their parents, what had gone on. What happened with this? What was the result? They changed the law. You want to talk about a criteria? How about changing the law with AB 1510? They changed the law on the statute of limitations to allow these women to bring their claims. They had to deal with unbelievable pressure from the press, from everyone telling them out of state. You know what these cases sell for out of state? About $10,000 each. There was pressure on that from the judges, from the mediators. These guys fought, and gals, and they fought. And they fought. They took over 100 depositions. They took one of my classmates from Pepperdine, Rick Caruso's deposition. He wasn't there then, thank God. They fought. They made sure. What else did they do? They made sure that there was no confidentiality attached to this settlement. And they said, we're going to try these cases one at a time. We're going to try all friggin' 700 of them if you guys don't pay. What did they have to pay? They had to pay top dollar. $852 million. The largest settlement in United States history against an institution. Let me repeat that. The largest settlement in US history against an institution, the only one like this with a doctor that was going on for 30 and 40 years, the guy that wanted his golden parachute and almost walked away from this whole thing, by the way. They didn't want that to happen. They wanted to be sure that this wasn't going to happen again. They wanted to be sure that their voices were heard. Vince Finaldi told me that they had to think outside the box to find justice and accountability for every one of these women. And you know what? They did it. You've likely all heard about Simone Biles' testimony this week. It was tearful. It was gut-wrenching. It's exactly what this case was, by the way. That was just that asshole from Michigan State in the Olympic team, but it's the same story. What did she say? She said, I obviously know to blame the doctor, but I have to tell you, I also blame the entire system that enabled and perpetrated this abuse. And isn't that exactly what happened here in the USC case? As a result, this case has reverberated throughout the United States. Institutions have now been put on notice that they have to have a better process so that women can come forward and that this shit never happens again. Please, it should never happen in athletics. I have to tell you, for me personally as a lawyer, this is the case that I want to see when I'm at the dinner 2 months from now that we stood up for and we listened in front of the politicians and everyone that's at that dinner to see that this is why we're proud to be plaintiff lawyers. This case makes me proud. This case is the winner for 2021 California Consumer Attorney of the Year for California. Thanks very much for listening.